Hey everybody, Pete Meyer, Motor Age, and welcome to today's debut episode of Reflash. It's a TSB for shops. I'm very excited about this series. You know, we do a lot of technical training and have over the years, but we have been a little neglectful for the shop owners or those of you who are interested in becoming shop owners. You know, everyone knows how important it is now to maintain up your technical training so you're current with the new technologies. But unfortunately, I see a lot of really great techs over the years who have started on their own, could fix a car in their sleep, but they didn't understand how to run a business, and unfortunately, their business didn't work. So we're hopeful that this series will help you if that's in your future to be prepared for it. And if you're a current shop owner, well, you already know that if you want to stay competitive, if you want to continue to grow, you got to change with the times. You've got to continue your own education on the business side of things. So that's what we're hopeful we're going to do with you today. And to help us kick this off, let me bring him on. There is a good friend, guru, nationally recognized trainer, founder of Autoshop Solutions, Danny Sanchez. Danny, thanks so much for being our debut guest.
Well, Pete, thanks so much for having me. I love doing any program with you. You're always entertaining. So thanks for having me, and hopefully we deliver some good information today.
Yeah, I don't know how to quite take the entertaining part, but I'll take whatever I get. Hey, Danny's got a really great presentation for you today. I'm going to turn it over to him. Wherever you're watching, though, you can ask questions, put in your comments. I'll do the best I can to pass those along to Danny as we go. So, with that said, let me go ahead and let him bring up his program. Cut myself out of the shot here, and Danny, it's all yours.
Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us today, and on the debut, no less, of Pete's programs here. And again, hopefully we deliver some information. You can ask questions along the way. Pete will help bring them up, and I'll do the best I can to leave today with some great information that you can go back and continue to run a very successful shop. So today's next hour or so, we're going to try and give you some of the secrets that $1 million shops use in their marketing. And some of it is, well, maybe it's not so secretive, but sometimes just a good reminder of the things that we need to be doing, and then hopefully give you some really good ideas on how you can move your shop forward, continue to grow, continue to move forward, and most importantly is help customers keep their cars on the road while, of course, making a great living and building a business and supporting all the families that we do. So with that, let me just give you a little bit of my background for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to listen to me in the past. My name began as Danny Sanchez. I have been in this industry really all my life. There isn't a point that I wasn't connected to the automotive aftermarket. From growing up in a shop in California to being part of the family, owning a shop in California, to then moving to North Carolina. It's been 20 years now, and then becoming really a full-time instructor. Coach and managing 20 groups, to then starting my own company, which is Autoshop Solutions, of which now I'm actually retired. I sold a couple years ago, and I'm the CEO emeritus now, where I'm just there to really help guide a little bit. But I actually sold and done, and now I'm a part owner of a shop in Cary. So I'm back to being a shop owner again. So all the way around the circle is where we're at. Today we are. Here's a picture of it, but you're literally seeing it in my background too. We're in the Silver Horse Garage, which is my home personal garage where I work on my own cars. And yep, it's a disease. I just like silver BMWs. That's all there is. That's all I buy. But I have been collecting now for a little over 15 years, and it's been a lot of fun to be able to maintain my own cars again in my own garage. Didn't have that for quite a few years. This garage is only 3 years old now. And to be able to do that. This Saturday, as a matter of fact, one of the other events, this is a second running of this Saturday, actually having a BMW car show on my property. This year, looking at probably about 160 cars, possibly maybe 180, depends on what loose ones show up. But we're doing a car show on my property, just BMWs. If you're in the local area, look up Europeisch, and you're certainly welcome to stop by. That's just a little bit about me and my background, and you can find a little bit more about me online if you're curious, or send me some emails. So let's talk about marketing, what we're here for today, and how we continue to grow, and how we continue to make sure that the bays are full. That we really don't don't have anything unless we got 4 wheels, 4 tires, and a steering wheel in the shop, and customers are calling us up to get things repaired. And if I don't say it enough times, I'll make sure I say it once now. When times are tight, people are fixing their cars. So this is the time where we should start to be, if we're not already, the busiest that we've ever been over these next 6 months, a year, while the market is where it's at. People are going to keep their cars, but we all know that even if they didn't want to keep their car, they can't buy a new one. So this is a great opportunity for us to continue to growing as an industry. This is our time. So making sure that people can find you when the time is right is now more critical than ever as that continues to drive business. And please don't make the mistakes of thinking that the way I'm going to grow my shop is to only have word of mouth marketing. Now, that is without a doubt the best marketing that you can do. As a matter of fact, it is the relatively the cheapest type of marketing you can do, and it brings in the highest quality customers. No questions asked. Most customers that are referred to you by other customers will approve or spend money with you really without any questions, because the great thing is they've already been sold by somebody else. Somebody already told them how great you are, and they already have an expectation that they're going to get honest answers. They're going to get an honest report of what's wrong with the car, and that you're going to be fair with whatever you're charging with, because somebody has already told them that they trust. Somebody has already told them that you're going to deliver on all those things. So that's an expectation. So can we set those customers aside just for a minute? You're always working towards this. It's never something that you can stop doing, getting customers to come in who believe in you, who are sending you customers. But let's put them aside for just a second. Because if you're driving in only your referral customers, it's still not enough to grow a great company. It's not enough to beat the numbers of the customers that you're losing. Even if you're the best shop around, you're still losing enough to drive your numbers back to keep your profitability where you really ought to be. You do need to keep bringing in more business than even what your referrals would drive in. And that's where some type of marketing, some kind of advertising, some kind of program outside of that to bring in those extra percentage points on top of what you're getting for referrals. And that's where the profitability comes from. Every single shop who's tuned in today, every single shop that's not tuned in today, I guarantee you the one thing could change their bottom line business from either already a little profitable to very profitable, or from not profitable to likely profitable. And that is just one more car a day at their average repair order. One more car a day changes almost everybody's bottom line. Now, that does mean somewhere between possibly 20 to 24, maybe 26 cars a month. True. But it's just one more a day changes our bottom line. So that's what we're trying to get to. How do we get to the place where we can drive in those extra numbers? So when times are good, you should advertise. But when times are bad, you absolutely must advertise. We're heading into what was bad times for a lot of consumers, but good times for us. But these are the times that you should and must continue to advertise and not let off the gas on making sure that you're staying in spaces to be in front of them when the opportunity is right. But there are several reasons why some business owners either don't advertise or choose to get out. And one of them, of course, is budget. When budget gets tight, then people definitely spend less money. But here's reasons why you should be advertising when times do get tough or when people tend to pull back. And the first thing is that if you're talking about online marketing, the noise level drops. In this automotive space, when competitors cut back, there are less competitors for you to compete with online. And as I'll talk with here in just a little while, that actually makes it more affordable to actually be online and get in front of customers that are potentially going to come in and spend money. The average person who's looking for somewhere to take their car from the internet on a breakdown or some other type of repair is somewhere between $600 and $900. So every time a customer is looking to get their car fixed, there's an average potential of $600 to $900 waiting. That car is going to go somewhere. If you're not online, then you're missing out on that opportunity. And of course, the opportunity that follows up with that is the opportunity to then turn that customer into a lifelong customer in which they'll spend somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000 a year with you maintaining their cars. So when other people are cutting back, it's an opportunity for people to jump in and spend a little bit more, or at least keep spending what they're doing, and they're actually bringing in the regular dollars that come in for marketing. When things get a little bit dicey in your communities, where things get to be a struggle, when you're still projecting and advertising, when you're still out there trying to get business, it actually projects stability of your company and helps the community see you as a leader in a business, as somebody who's really doing well and doing all the right things. And it helps make that decision of, these are good guys. These are people running a good business, and they deserve my business when it comes time to. So you're talking about long-term branding. You talk about long-term projection of your company in the industry or in the community, actually does really help you as a person or as a company that deserves their spending dollars. It does really help. So pulling back on marketing and kind of disappearing from the market actually does the exact opposite.
All right, seems we had a little technical issue there. Let me see if I can let Danny know. Such as the beauty of doing things live, right? There he is. Right. All right, I think we got him back. There we go. And he's back.
Where'd I die out?
I don't know. I think you're just about ready to go to your next slide there.
Okay. All right, good. So I didn't miss too much.
No.
Sorry about that. All right. So talk about history and looking back so we can look forward. So in 1990, the 91 recession, Pizza Hut and Taco Bell took advantage of McDonald's decision to drop its advertising and its budget. So McDonald's saw the recession coming. They said, you know what? We need to hold on to some more dollars. Let's not spend any more than we have to. And they dropped their budget back. Pizza Hut and Taco Bell increased their budget for marketing and ended up with Pizza Hut increased their sales by 61%, and Taco Bell grew 40%, and McDonald's fell by 28%. Now that just like proof that when the opportunity is there, when your competitors drop, there's opportunity to take market share. So if you have competitors around you that are pulling back in their marketing dollars, this is an opportunity for you to push forward and help you sop up, gain more of that market share. There are always people looking to get their cars fixed. And the idea, of course, is to be there when they're looking for that next place to get the car repaired. Somewhere in the industry, somewhere along the lines, we ended up with a little bit of a mindset because we look at our customer base, and most of our customers stay with us for a good portion of time, sometimes forever, because we do the right things for the right reasons. Somewhere along the lines, we got the impression that every other customer that is going to a shop now does the same thing, that they all stay wherever they are. Once they find a shop, they are that shop's customer forever. And that could be no further from the truth. People are generally fickle, and there are very few shops that are actually drawing people so well that they will never go anywhere else. That is an ego problem in our hearts as we look and see one of our customers and say they'll never go anywhere else. Well, the fact is that they many of them can and many of them do. But many of them that are going to other shops, if they find somebody closer, if they find somebody that they believe can take a little better care of them, if they get a referral to another shop when they need it, they'll go. They'll give it a try. So all the people who are out there who are going to different shops, they're not shop hoppers. They're not bad customers. They just haven't found you yet. And it's our job to make sure that they have the opportunity to find the great shops, the people who really deserve the business. And the way to do that is to keep on marketing, staying in front of people. And this is what shops who are doing 1 million plus and continue to grow, this is what they're doing. They're staying in front and they're trying to find those customers, being in front of them all the time. That's what makes a big difference. And of course, they are adapting to new marketing methodologies, and continue to do it. We we as an industry, we're past this to some respect. But many years ago, the issues that we had as far as marketing in our industry, and some of you out there might remember these times. But one of the only tools that we had as far as drawing new customer in was the yellow pages, a big thick book with a bunch of yellow pages in it. And of course, you only placed an ad once a year, and just it went out there, and you hoped it did well. There really wasn't anything to do with it. Well, unfortunately, that developed into a habit where we as marketers, we as shop owners, we as business owners, we adapted to a model that was a fire and forget type of model, where the marketing that we did was one time a year. You talk to the rep, you place the ad, it went out there, and then it's pretty much fire and forget. You get whatever you get. And the marketing today could not be any further from that model. There is no such thing anymore as a fire and forget type of marketing where you can completely ignore it for a year because you have no ability to change it. Now, almost all the marketing that we do has the ability to be changed almost on a monthly basis. Some of it actually is it's built right, works right, does what it's supposed to. Some of it you can even step on the gas like a throttle. You can actually increase it for a short period of time. You can pull back on the throttle just a little bit in times when maybe you know you're going to be a little bit busier. But one thing that you never do is you never take your foot all the way off the gas and completely stop it or slow down. But you can use it as a throttle to push a little bit harder in the times where you're ready to do a little bit more, if you're doing it right. And then, of course, most of you have heard this by now, but it's worth repeating. And for some, maybe this is still kind of new. But the world went mobile a long time ago, and it's in your pocket, all your pockets. You all have a cell phone in your pocket. So this is telling you that, of course, is just repetitive. However, when it comes to people searching, this is fairly new, and new meaning in the last 5 years, where in the automotive industry, when people are searching for auto repair near me or looking for brake repair near me or something along those lines, the switchover only just happened in the last 5-6 years, where there are more searches now on a mobile device than there are on the desktop. So seeing these changes in all the industry, of course, Google has been establishing a penalty for any businesses that their web services, websites are not designed to be on a mobile device. So if your website is still running something that is not mobile friendly and does not have a mobile ready website, then you can still be taking a penalty. And that of course, hurts your search rankings and your visibility to clients coming in. Not to mention that if they do happen to find you, I mean, great if you're still showing up on the first page of Google when to search for you, but if they click on your page and they can't read it, they have to pinch and zoom so they can see the information. The experience is so poor, they're not likely to give you the call anyway, because they're comparing you not just to other auto repair companies. They're comparing you to all the other online experiences that they have from any businesses that they've been doing business with. So it might be a plumber, it might be an air conditioning guy, it might be an attorney, it might be some shopping website. And all those experiences that are all mobile friendly are what you're going to get compared against. So it does not matter that your website, although it may be being a little bit older, is better than every other shop in town. If it doesn't meet the criteria comparison with other businesses that they look at, then you look like you're falling behind the times, and that definitely can affect the rate at which people are calling you to get in new services. And I hope that makes some sense. So Don't be comparing yourself with other shops that you're doing better. You've got to compare yourself to other businesses that your customers are seeing, and that's how they view you as far as how up to date that you are. So now, before they go to the desktop, they just grab the phone out of their back pocket, find the services they're looking for, and you need to be there with a mobile-friendly site with all the services that go along with it. So mobile marketing, 50%, 57% now are the amount of people who are using either a tablet or a mobile device, over 43% desktop. So what it means basically is we cannot discount desktop altogether. There's still plenty of that going on, but there's far less of it than there has been. It used to be the desktops were greater by a small percentage, and actually the time frames or the time of day that people would search, funny enough, was actually lunchtime. Was actually the most popular time for people to do searches. It was on their desktops, and it was while they were at work. So they would stop down at lunchtime and they would say, okay, I need to get my car serviced, or I've got a problem that I need to take care of, and they stop down at lunchtime to take a look and see what time. So that didn't necessarily mean a whole lot as far as predictability for times, other than that making sure, and we'll talk briefly here in a second about paid search and pay-per-click, is making sure that your budget made it through the lunch hour so that you were getting as many clicks, that many more ad views coming through. Nowadays, actually, with a mobile environment, those numbers are not as predictable because the mobile device is in their back pocket, so easy to grab, and just do a quick search. Doesn't take so long, and you're not getting on. You don't have to get on a work computer while you're at work in order to do that, as some people might not want to have those kind of searches visible for somebody else. So now you can do it on your mobile device, and it's just as fast, and you get a great experience, as Google has forced everybody now to deliver great mobile experiences. So changing times in the last just 5 years, a significant change in the way people work online. And this is something that we have to continue adapting to. Whoever that you might be working with or that you might work with in the future, as far as your web presence, as far as what you're doing in mobile or what you're doing desktop, they're the right ones to ask as far as making sure that you are mobile ready and your website looks great on all the devices. And that's something that can be done. And also reasonably backwards compatible. It is difficult to make a website compatible across all devices. And you can only go so far back on some of the really old cell phones to where it gets to be very, very difficult with newer technology. But I believe, I don't have a place to say this, but I'll make sure I say it now. If your website right now is older than 3 or 4 years old, then you need to be taking a look at getting it replaced or significantly updated, because the software code that they're written in is not backwards compatible as much as what it can be written now in code. I hope that makes sense. So the older it is, the more difficult it is to continue ranking and for people to use it. But it's also the cross compatibility becomes larger issues as the website gets older and it starts to actually not work as well as it did in the past. So if it's older than 3 or 4 years, generally speaking, the rule is it's time for it to be replaced or updated. And that's just that's a rule of thumb that we've been working with that works very, very well. And for those of you who do have websites, you know it takes a little bit of time to rebuild. So it's something that you want to start. All right, hopefully we all, excuse me. Sorry about that. Hopefully we all have a little bit of understanding what pay-per-click is. I'm going to explain the basics of it, make sure that we're on the same page. And if you haven't been exposed to a whole bunch of it, this is something that you really need to put your arms all the way around and do some more research. So PPC or pay-per-click is also Google AdWords, or the sponsored ads that you see that popped up on the first page of Google. This is, without question, the most cost-effective marketing that you can do when it's done correctly. There is no greater return on investment than pay-per-click. Now, there'll be some shop owners out there, and there's certainly, you're listening to this webinar, or who are just out there who will say, I tried it and it was a huge waste of money. And although that may be possible, the only explanation that can have is something was done wrong. Because there is no scenario that we have found in the 15 years that Autoshop Solutions has been doing PPC for clients. There is no scenario to which there has not been an excellent return on investment. Now, Don't have time today to get into all the details of what you can do right and what you can do wrong. But we can talk about is one of the reasons why of the many things that Google does, and not all of them really popular, even what I consider to be not really great things. This is one of the things that they have designed that actually does work really well and is a benefit to every business owner. So this is how PPC works in the sense of keeping it fair. So shop number one is a reasonably new shop. They've been around maybe 2 to 5 years. They want to grow their business. They're active. They're active on the internet. They're active on driving in, of course, their referral business. They're working really hard on building a base of very loyal customers. So they have a brand new online presence. They have a new website. It's been built with the most recent code. It was very well designed for the user experience. The content on it was all written for them. It's a well-built online profile, and they're ready to engage in the marketplace. Well, of course, search engine optimization helps you get in there over a long run, but it's not short-term solutions. SEO is a medium to long-term solutions. In short term, however, PPC can start driving traffic on a new website as soon as and early as 60 to 120 days, where it can start actively making the phone ring, which of course is a benefit for somebody who's trying to drive in business now. Shop number two is a shop that's been around for, maybe let's just say 4 to 8 years. They're established. They're wanting to drive some business in. They don't quite have the budget maybe that the shop number three does, but they're willing to spend some to keep themselves in the game, and they're a more established company. They've got a website that's been around for maybe about 4 to 6 years. It's on the older side, but it's still functional, and they're just keeping things going and letting the status quo going. So they're not driving a whole bunch. Shop number three is the established large shop in the community. They've been around for 20 years. They're doing a large volume and they have a heavy budget. Now, their website, much, much older, because the shop owner, let's be in a nice way, doesn't necessarily believe in this online stuff, right? But nonetheless, they got to drive in some new customers. They got to keep filling in the blanks and making sure that the cars are coming in. But they've got a larger budget, so they're willing to throw more dollars at it. And we're looking at this max bid of $2, $4, and $6. This would be what they're willing to spend on each click that comes to the website, which is an opportunity for a customer to see a little bit more about them and then say, hey, these are some people that I might give a call to. Here's where the fairness comes in. Shop number one has all new, all well-designed, great stuff online. Because they're what Google considers to be called their quality score, because they've done everything well, and what Google considers to be well, and they do look, they can see everything that's on the website, they see every string of code that's in there, and they know what's high quality and what's not. Because it's so well done, the shop number one, their max bid, they will actually move up in ad rank, meaning where their ads show on the internet on that first page, and their cost per click is actually lower than shops number 2 or 3. Shop number 2, they're okay. Website's a little bit older. They're not as committed as shop number 1. So they're going to pay a little bit more, and their ad rank might drop just a little bit, or it might be equal to shop number 1 based on the amount that they're willing to spend. Shop number 3, their quality score is very low. They're not keeping up with the times. They're throwing out the big budget, but they're not keeping up with the current standards of way websites are built, designed, used, not paying attention to user experience, not making sure that content is fresh and unique, not doing all the right things that Google would say. You're caring a lot about the user experience. So Google's not going to try and send a lot of people there if other people are doing it better. That's the essence of how the algorithms work and making sure that it's staying fair. But they will pay more for the same click that shop number 1 will. So this is how Google lets you know as a business owner, you need to do better because you're actually paying more. You can see how well you're doing by how much you're paying per click. This is the way Google lets you know you're not doing that great. It also shows up in your ad rank. It shows up in the amount of clicks you get. There's a lot of other numbers, and I'm oversimplifying here significantly, but this is how it's made to be very, very fair. So shop owners ask all the time, well, how do I compete in this? Well, you can compete much easier if you've got everything else in good working order, and it's all your website, your presence, mobile, all those things are done correctly, and you can compete at a much lower rate than somebody who's not doing it very, very well. So shop number one basically can outperform shop number 2 and 3 because they've invested in a newer online presence, or that it's done correctly, and spend less for their bids. And this is how $1 million shops spend a little bit more online to go after business, and are able to achieve more with less money invested online, if that makes sense, by doing it right. You leave your online profile alone for too long, and unfortunately, you end up spending a little bit more. And again, this shows up in all the numbers that you use for your marketing. So these are the mistakes. They don't make the $1 million shops don't make these mistakes with PPC, with paid search. They don't ever put their Google ads on set it and forget it. Google now does a lot of things right, and a lot of things that, well, are not necessarily in your best interest, but if they're in yours. If you give Google a bunch of money to spend, they will spend it in your paid search account. They're not monitoring to see whether or not you're wasting it or not doing it right. It is up to you to learn to do it correctly and manage your own budget. If you give them a big budget and put a bunch of the wrong keywords in and they don't make the phone ring, that's on you. They don't help with that. It's on you to figure out how to do it, which is typically why it's not recommended to manage your own Google account. It's unbelievably complicated, and you can spend a lot of money before you learn how to do it correctly. Now, that being said, every single person who is listening to this webinar right now is capable of doing this. 100%. It's just a matter of whether or not you have the time and energy over the next 2, 3, 4 years, not only to learn through this, spend the money to actually make all the mistakes and do this, and keep up with something that literally changes almost on a weekly basis. It's like holding a tiger by the tail, and running a business and doing this at the same time would be extremely difficult. But if you didn't have to run a business and you could only dedicate your time to this, yes, you could do this yourself. It's just not a really good idea with all the other responsibilities that the business owner has. This is something to sub to a company that you can count on. So do not give Google large amounts of budget while you learn. They will spend it. Do not put your teenager, nephew, niece, this is tongue-in-cheek, of course, just being kind of funny, just because they know internet stuff, or because they're on TikTok, or because they're on Facebook, and they seem to be pretty savvy when it comes to clicking buttons. It is far too complex and far too large of budgets to trust to somebody just to learn. So this is something to hand over to professionals. And don't let your competitors have a marketplace advantage by not using the best tools that are available to you. So your customers, your competitors, you're giving them leads by not placing yourself in the marketplace to draw in new customers. And when it comes to what $1 million shops do to continue driving in business into their shops, into their base, they're not missing these opportunities to bring in new customers. Every new car that comes in is not worth whatever the repair is today. Every new car that comes in is worth $3,000 to $5,000 a year in long-term maintenance. And you don't have to be a math wizard to figure out that every 10 cars you bring in is a potential $30,000 a year that you're adding in your gross revenue. And if you're doing your numbers right, and you're doing a GP, then hopefully half of that is gross profit. And that's how it all trickles down into your pocketbook, and in making sure that you can afford to keep paying for the crew that you have, is making sure those numbers work. $1 million shops, they prioritize new customer acquisition. Some shops, unfortunately, the first thing that they do is they slash marketing off the budget as an expendable item. The $1 million shops, the ones that continue to grow, they'll see the dips. We all do. We see the dips where the bays get empty for just a little while. But what they not do is they will not drop the marketing budget. If they can, you actually increase the marketing budget when things get tight. What happened to us, and I'm going to go back to the Yellow Page example, what happened to us as an industry, it does affect us still, is back then, the actual marketing dollars was a fixed amount. We were spending $300, $400. Those of us who had shops in California, back for the Yellow Pages, we were spending several $1,000s a month just for our marketing expenses. But it was a fixed amount. It didn't go up and down. So you could just count on it, and it automatically you're paying those bills every month. Nowadays, it's not. Nowadays, it's not necessarily the same. And you should be looking at it, or your marketing expenses is something that will change even seasonally to drive in new business. But the main thing is that we continue to drive that in. Back in the day, when we had the Yellow Pages, by the way, and not all of us are old enough to have been in a shop where it was, but for those of us that were, when the Yellow Pages died, there was a gap. There was a time between where there was no other real marketing source available to us to make sure that budget went into. And what ended up happening is for most shops, is that budget just got soaked into other expenses. Our rents went up, our payroll went up, our uniform costs went up, our shop supplies went up. Everything went up in the shop, and it absorbed that marketing budget. And it wasn't something that stayed in everybody's budget. So now, for a lot of shops who had that time period gap in between where they were not marketing, now squeezing back out that $400, $500, $600, $700 what they may need to put back into marketing is a tight budget to come back out of something that didn't exist before. And that is a challenge. But one thing's for sure, for most shops and in most environments, spending as little as $100 to $200 on their online marketing is no longer enough. 5 to 10 years ago, in a small market, it was probably okay. These days, you're going to have to pull out larger budgets, and those are things that a marketing company can help you understand in your marketplace and in the competitive nature of how much they need to spend. We do have many shops who are doing well over $1 million a year, who are in markets that are fairly competitive, who are spending somewhere between $400 to $800 a month in their online marketing and are very successful, who are seeing good return on their investment between the marketing and their pay-per-click, social media, all those components where they're driving in new business. Now, that being said, there are many companies who are spending much, much more than that in very competitive environments. And this is all a matter of understanding where you're at in your marketplace, where you continue to drive in business, and what you have to do to continue doing that. And Pete, just taking a pause for just a second. The screen I'm looking at doesn't have all the questions on it, so you're going to stop me if you have a question.
Yes, if we have questions come up, I will make sure we put them up there. Otherwise, okay. I've got the chat covered, buddy.
So I'm blabbing away, so just making sure.
You keep right on blabbing, buddy. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay, and other things that $1 million shops do is you have to monitor the results. And things that happen online aren't necessarily, it's not something that maybe we're all going to understand right off the bat, but we are good at understanding numbers in our industry. And this is not difficult as long as we get an explanation of what the number really is and what exactly that it means. And then it's easy to watch and maintain. But you cannot go dark on watching some of the numbers to make sure that you're still actively getting in the amount of business that you need. And once you understand, how many clicks that you need, once you understand how many calls you need to get, and you understand your conversion rates, then these numbers actually tie themselves out pretty easily to where you can see, I need this much volume in order to keep my bays full. So, for an example, hopefully if you're not recording the calls to come from your website now, it's something that you might want to take a look at. Besides being a great way to monitor and measure your inbound calls and how are you doing on conversions, and also training tools for your service advisors. Besides doing that, it's also a really easy way to measure how your online performance is by at least tracking how many physical phone calls are coming in from the website or from those sources. So if you know you need to be drawing in at least what we talked about before, the one new customer a day. It's if things are going very well, these are numbers that we can hang our hats on. We know that it's the conversion rate from, if you have 100 people who come to the website who are looking for repairs, that our conversion rate, we know that the bare minimum 10% of those will turn into a phone call. Up to 25% is the potential. We have many customers that are somewhere between 15 and 25%, but we try and keep expectations reasonable, so we say 10%. Of those 10%, that's 10 people who, of the 100 who come in, of those, if you're doing, the people who actually call, of those, if your service advisor is doing a good job, 50% of those will actually turn into customers. We'll walk into the door and spend money on their vehicle. So, for every 100 calls, potentially there's at least 5 new customers that come. Every 100 visitors to your website, there's a potential 5 customers out of those. Now, that number could be a little bit higher. Like I said, it could be up to 10 customers. But then it's not hard to understand, well, if I need to get 20 new customers a month, my conversion rate on those is 50% on the calls, well, then I need to be getting in 200, 300 people coming to the website in order to meet my numbers. Not hard to back into those. And they stay fairly consistently, which is what's the amazing part, is you can kind of count on them. So when you look at your data, you can see how many people are coming in. On the screen here also is how many pages that they look at, which is good metric is they're looking at more than one page. So being 2 or 3 is actually really good. The average time that they stay on, believe it or not, your website, if you haven't heard this before, we are not looking for them to stay very long. Matter of fact, we don't want them to stay 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. It means they can't find what they're looking for. We're looking for them to find what they're looking for in somewhere around 90 seconds or less. See what they want to learn about you. Go, wow, these guys look professional, and then pick up the phone or hit contact and make an appointment and come in. We don't want them looking around the website for a long time. So for the shop owners out there who are spending, days and hours overthinking content on the website, just understand they're only going to be there for 90 seconds. And even though the content is good for search engine optimization, and it's good to catch people, not saying content be good, but don't overthink it because they're not going to read it all. They're just looking for an impression, not all the details. If you write some big blogs and articles, great for SEO, and you might attract a few people who do want to read, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to help with your conversions. So just it's a little side note to add in there. Once you understand the basic numbers that drive your business, then you should not be losing track of them. It's something you need to be keeping an eye on a regular basis. If numbers do go up and down, there is no such thing as it keeps growing through the roof. They do cycle up and down a fair amount. And you can see on this graph, you can see on this graph is represented. Keep in mind on these kinds of graphs that there are better hours that people are active, but there's also better days. So we're only active generally Monday through Friday, some of us on Saturday, but then you see the fall offs on the different days. So you do need to look at those, not always in the averages, because those numbers carry out in the hours that we're available for working too. You need to talk to your marketing provider and find out what are the metrics that are being monitored, what are the ones being measured, and what are the ones that you should be checking to make sure that things are always going in the right direction. And you can catch it when they get a little off and make corrections as you go. Pete, this is my last slide, I think. What do million dollar shops do is they widen their marketing bandwidth. So they are not looking at just one thing to continue driving traffic. Just like as we started out, we are not looking for just referrals. We don't grow that way. You cannot just have a website. You cannot just build content. You can't just have blogs. You can't just have your my Google business page. It's not just reviews. It's not just social media. You can't have a growing company who's just on Facebook and call that my online marketing. If you look at name, address, phone numbers is what's called NAPs. That's another element of your search engine optimization and also part of your online presence. And that's worth mentioning just for real quick because not everybody's heard of this. Your online profile to Google and all the other search engines that will help put you in position. Your business is actually a name, address, and phone number, to make it really simple. And those name, address, phone numbers have to match exactly across all the citations and all the listings on our internet for you to have the best ranking position. So in order to rank the best, these are one of the things that has to be fixed. And there's many companies that do this, but if your company is not, whoever's using a provider now is not doing that, then you really can be getting harmed by it. So even just having your listing listed as, if your business is on 100 Main Street and on one of the main citations, it says 100 Main, MAIN, and it says street, STREET. But in all your other citations, it's actually listed 100 Main, MAIN, ST with a dot. That error, just a little bit different, can actually cause, it's all small incremental changes, but actually cause just a little bit of a penalty or an error to be in your profiles and actually can hurt your position. So these are some things that professionals make sure are exact, and it does actually help in making sure you're arriving. The social media, yes, you do have to have social media. It's worth mentioning, by the way, too. Don't overthink it. We're none of us, I think, are Coca-Cola. I don't think Coca-Cola is tuned in today, but we are not social media giants. It is good to continue posting. The content, of course, needs to be somewhat fresh. If you can post content from inside the shop, it's usually the best. But just the fact that you are posting is most important. What people are looking at. Customers are only looking at your profiles for a couple minutes and making decisions to come and find you. In social media, yes, you can stay connected with your customers, but more importantly is working with people who don't know who you are, and they will not judge you because you have a post that isn't made from inside, that doesn't have a picture of a puppy or a kitten or something else that's so engaging that everybody's clicking on it and liking and resharing it, and it's going to go viral. That's not real in our industry. We're just not that interesting. That being the case, though, if you do find a cat underneath the hood of a car, then please take a picture of it and do post that to your social network, because it does work. It just doesn't happen very often for us, but you can get some good engagement from it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And the Google My Business page, if you don't have that managed or haven't claimed it, that is something you take a look at doing this week. It's not to be left alone. Blogs, just to answer, if you've ever been told that you have to do blogs, they are good for SEO, good long term. Adding content to your pages is good longer. It doesn't have to be done on a weekly basis. It doesn't even have to be done on a monthly basis for some marketplaces. Now, everything we talk about as far as how much of it you have to do or how much you have to engage or what you have to spend is all based on your marketplace. The less competitors you have, the less you have to do. Doesn't mean you don't have to do anything. It means you don't have to fight as hard in order to get position. So the more competitive an area you are, the more metro it is, and the more shops around you, means that you just have to do that much more in order to keep out competing everybody else for position on Google. If you haven't heard the joke before, the best place to hide a dead body, Pete, do you know this one? Where's the best place to hide a dead body?
I have no idea.
Not sure about that one? It's on the second page of Google. Nobody looks at the second page of Google. As a matter of fact, Google has us so well trained that the second page is not worth looking at, that most of us will do a Google search, not find what we're looking for, and then instead of clicking page 2, you know what we do, Pete?
What's that?
We go back to the search bar, we type something else in because we did it wrong. It's not that Google didn't deliver us the information. It's that we typed in the wrong thing. So we need to go back and retype it in again. And that is 100% true when it comes to the way Google has trained us to use. So we use their search engine and the way that works. And with that, I'm talked out there, Pete. That's the class.
Hey, Danny, I really appreciate you taking the time to present this great information to those who are watching today. If you didn't catch it all, you're kind of joining in the second half. That's all right. This is recorded. You can access it nearly immediately after we're done with the live stream. And I also want to call out to your attention one more time. Danny's covered a lot of topics today. And as I mentioned a couple of times in the chat window, you're an expert at fixing cars. That's what got you to open your shop in the first place, to pursue that dream. But you're not an expert in all things when it comes to business related. But the good point is, the same reason that people come to you for your expertise, there are those that you can go to for theirs. And one such group is folks at Autoshop Solutions. The link to find out more about how they can help you is in the video description. Wherever you're watching this, I encourage you to reach out and see how they can help your shop. Danny, thanks so much again for doing this with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, B, always great seeing you. Really appreciate it.
All right. So once again, thanks for the coming out to the debut of Reflash. And yeah, put in the comments wherever you're at about what you thought and what you'd like to see going forward. We really want to make this a great training resource for you, the independent shop owner, so you can stay competitive. There's a lot of challenges facing you today, brother. This is only one of them, staying up there on top of your marketing.
True
So
story.
see you next time. All right. Have a great night, great afternoon, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you, everybody.